Coming up tonight on YCN News, Wilmot, New Hampshire residents speak out about a site for a propane and heating facility. A furniture store fire in West Lebanon. And New Hampshire Governor Maggie Hassan vetoes a study of physician-assisted suicide. For more news, weather, and sports, it's time for YCN News, your local view.
Now, your daily digest of the Dartmouth Lake Sunapee region, southern Vermont, and Windsor County. News, sports, weather, and all that is happening in our area. The news on YCN, your local view.
Good evening. It's Tuesday, June 2nd. I'm Laura James. Welcome to YCN News. Well, fans and foes of a plan to site a propane and heating oil facility in Wilmot, New Hampshire, had a chance to be heard last night. Residents took advantage of this opportunity, and YCN's Mike Pizzone explains.
The Wilmot Planning Board continued its consideration of the proposed Huckleberry propane and oil facility on Route 11 Monday evening, beginning with a walkthrough of the proposed site and convening with a 4-hour meeting at Town Hall. Nearly 100 supporters and detractors braved chilly and wet conditions to listen to Huckleberry consultant and surveyor Jeff Green as he guided the group around the site while answering questions from the board. From there, the scheduled meeting shifted back to Town Hall, where several letters were read into the minutes, including some questioning whether the town could handle such a large project or a potential major accident in the future. Others addressed the engineering of a flame protection system, as well as safety training programs. Green then reviewed changes requested by the board at its previous meeting, including extending pavement in the driveway for fire equipment, movement of the retention pond, and erosion control during construction. From there, questions and comments from the board and public were accepted, with much of the discussion centered on whether the retention pond, designed for a 50-year weather event, needed to be extended to 100 years. Though it was pointed out by town attorney Laura Spector Morgan that the town's requirements were only for a 10-year event. Still, officials from Huckleberry agreed to have their engineer calculate for a 100-year event. There were also several questions about road safety, spill containment, and inspections of the facilities, but in general, officials and designers assured the public that all met or exceeded state and local requirements. One concern that the project has a regional impact and should be reviewed as such was dismissed as not necessary by the town attorney, as was a request for a risk assessment report due to its cost to the town. The most contentious moment of the evening took place when a Wilmot resident questioned the bad practices of companies acquired by Huckleberry, implying guilt by association. The planning board reminded the resident that her comments needed to be about the site and its proposal and not the company, and she responded by saying that the board would be sued. A Huckleberry representative then replied that her comments were slanderous. After more than 4 hours, the planning board reviewed all the areas of their responsibility, from internal and external traffic, to wastewater, to drainage and erosion, to pollution and landscaping. Except for some technical assessments by the board's consulting engineer and his report, it looks like a decision is near. The continuation of Monday's meeting will be held Friday, June 12th at 5 p.m. at Wilmot Town Hall. YCN News will be sure to bring you the latest.
Thank you, Mike. YCN News will keep you updated. Continuing with other local business news, a furniture store in West Lebanon, New Hampshire, is determining its next steps. That's because a building fire at D. Felice Furniture early Sunday morning caused about $75,000 to $80,000 in smoke and water damage to the building and its contents. The fire is not considered suspicious and is being investigated by the Lebanon Fire Department's Fire Prevention Division. A passerby of the 35 Main Street shop in West Lebanon notified officials of an alarm going off inside the building at about 4 a.m. New Hampshire Governor Maggie Hassan vetoed a bill that called for a panel to study if the state should sanction physician-assisted suicide. Another phrase regarding the now failed House Bill 151 is death with dignity. It's the second time in 2 years that such a bill has been vetoed. Hassan, in a statement, says neither House Bill 151 or its earlier version addressed her concerns about the legislation, mainly that people other than lawmakers must discuss this issue before any further steps are taken. To do so, Hassan says, puts the state in an awkward situation. People who understand the complex and emotional issues associated with end-of-life directives must be part of the discussion, she says. This includes the medical and religious communities, patients, and advocates for the elderly and disabled. Coming up on YCN News, Vermont Health Connect receives technical upgrades. Lebanon, New Hampshire receives top grades for small town living and an increase in melanoma rates. More news, sports, and the midweek forecast when YCN News returns.
The YCN News continues in a moment.
Welcome back to YCN News. I'm Laura James. Well, after a rocky start, Vermont Health Connect has finally received a much-needed software upgrade. The improvement, which was announced Monday by Governor Peter Shumlin and other officials, effectively installed new software tools to increase the site's ability to upgrade change in circumstance coverage, reports the Brattleboro Reformer. Although installing the new software has been the toughest challenge in the website's maintenance, it has streamlined the data entry process and reduces the total amount of time for processing coverage changes. However, officials warn that it may take a while for users to notice the upgrade, as the site is currently backlogged with more than 10,000 coverage changes. Staff is currently working to clear these backlogs, and it may take until fall for users to make account changes on their own. Well, residents of Lebanon, New Hampshire now have a title to hold on to: Best Small Town in America. That according to ratings from livability.com for this year, beating out 99 other towns across the nation for the top spot. 100 towns nationwide were compared against each other in categories of visual appeal, economy, education, housing cost, and civic engagement. Lebanon excelled in each of these, with livability.com highlighting the location on the Connecticut River, Dartmouth-Hitchcock Medical Center, public events in Coburn Park, and the Salt Hill Pub featuring live music. Lebanon had previously lost to Lake Placid during the first round of a similar 64 bracket contest hosted by Outside Magazine. Turning to health-related news in our region, tanning bed use is again under scrutiny. Now, per New Hampshire Governor Maggie Hassan, any business with a tanning facility is prohibited from allowing people younger than 18 years of age to use one. Hassan says in a news release, use of tanning beds, especially at young ages, increases the risk of developing skin cancer later in life. Hassan signed House Bill 136 into law today, a bill supported by Republicans and Democrats. And in a related story, a report by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention shows skin cancer cases have doubled over the last 30 years. Skin cancers, or melanomas, are becoming more prevalent. However, the CDC report notes that comprehensive skin cancer protection programs could prevent 20% of new cancer cases between 2020 and 2030 if followed. Skin cancer is the most common form of cancer in the United States, and melanoma is the most deadly type of skin cancer. More than 90% of melanoma skin cancers are due to skin cell damage from exposure to ultraviolet rays. Reducing new cases of skin cancer will save the nation millions of dollars in treatment costs, that according to the CDC report. CDC Director Dr. Thomas Frieden says people of all ages, not just children, must take care of their skin. Slip on a hat, slop on the sunscreen, and cover up skin, especially between noon and 4 p.m. if you're outside playing or working. Well, coming up next, River Valley Chronicles' Elizabeth DeRazio sat down with Jan Bonnell. She's director of the Claremont Soup Kitchen. We'll have that interview when YCN News returns.
The YCN News continues in a moment.
Welcome back to YCN News. I'm Mike Pizzone. Well, it looks like we're finally going to get a little break from all that rain, although we may be seeing some more sooner than later. Skies will begin to clear up later this evening, with temperatures dropping to around 54 degrees, though there's a slight chance we could still see some more showers before about 10 p.m. The sun will finally break through tomorrow with partly sunny skies and a high of 69 degrees during the day, and skies will clear even further tomorrow evening with a low of 45. That will pave the way for an even brighter and warmer day on Thursday with a high of 72 during the day before bottoming out at about 56 after sunset. Now let's take a look at our community calendar to see what's happening in the region. A discussion on Lyme disease will be held Thursday at 6 p.m. in the Buckley Conference Room at Valley Regional Hospital in Claremont, New Hampshire. Lyme Disease Support Group Facilitator David Hunter will lead the discussion, which is free and open to the public. The 16th annual Roots of the River Festival will be held Thursday through Sunday at numerous venues throughout Bellows Falls, Vermont. The festival is family and pet friendly and will include vendors providing both food and beverages. Visit VermontFestivalLLC.com to find out more. A free community dinner will be held Friday from 5 to 6:30 p.m. at the North Springfield Baptist Church on Main Street in North Springfield, Vermont. The menu will include casseroles, baked beans, soups, salads, and more. Call the number on the screen for more information. Yesterday we broke down baseball and softball brackets in New Hampshire, so today we thought we'd take a closer look at how things panned out across the river in Vermont. Beginning on the diamond, both Bellows Falls and Springfield swung their way into the Division II tournament, with the Terriers earning a number 4 seed and the Cosmos at the number 9 spot. Bellows Falls will be the heavy favorite in round 1 today with home field advantage and an opponent with just 3 wins on its record, while Springfield will be in that ever so interesting 8-9 game against an Enosburg Falls team with an identical 9-7 record. Over in Division III, both Green Mountain and Windsor fought their way into postseason play, with the Chieftains earning the number 8 seed and Windsor finishing in the 12th spot. Green Mountain has outscored opponents 41-6 in the 2 games heading into today's first round matchup, while Windsor has struggled of late with losses in 5 of its last 7 games. On the softball field, Springfield, Hartford, and Woodstock will all be taking part in the Division II tournament, though the Cosmos are the only favorites heading into today's first round as the number 1 seed. Both the Hurricanes and the Wasps will be on the road for round 1, though each have played well of late with at least 3 wins in their last 4 games. And in Division III, Bellows Falls was the lone local team to earn a first-round bye by virtue of its 13-3 record, with Windsor and Green Mountain also playing their way into the tournament. The Yellow Jackets will have the benefit of home field advantage for today's first-round game against Northfield, while the Chieftains will have a tough task on the road against an Enosburg Falls team fresh off back-to-back wins. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for results from today's first-round games in both Vermont and New Hampshire. That does it for YCN Sports. I'm Mike Pizzone.
Thanks, Mike. Coming up next, YCN's Capital Connections host John O'Connor met recently with Claremont Citizens Group founder Michael Schrest. We'll have that interview when YCN News continues.
The YCN News continues in a moment.